In 2009, Jenson Button became Great Britain's 10th Formula One world champion. Not bad for a guy who failed his driving test at 17. Jenson Button debuted in Formula One with Williams in 2000.
We're going to give it some large.
And the Froome flyer soared to a first points finish in just his second Grand Prix. He finished a fantastic 6th, at the time the youngest driver to score a point in F1 history. More points would follow, including 4th spot at Hockenheim, but it was at Spa-Francorchamps that Button made a true statement of intent, with a sensational qualifying run, which netted him a P3 starting position, one place ahead of that season's eventual champion, Michael Schumacher. So pleased was Button with his setup that he told his engineers not to change a thing, and it proved the right call. He finished the race in Belgium in 5th spot, and a similar result in Suzuka saw the Briton take 8th place in the Drivers' Championship come season's end. 2009 had been Button and Brawn GP's sensational season, so the reigning world champion's decision to take a seat at McLaren in 2010 was viewed by some as a misstep, especially as his new teammate would be another former champ in the shape of Lewis Hamilton. But it was Jenson who tasted the victory champagne first at a rain-soaked Melbourne. As the track began to dry, Button asked his crew to prepare a set of slick tyres, and as he splashed through standing water in the pit lane, it seemed he'd made the call a little too early, the Briton running wide as he tried to get to grips with the mixed conditions at Albert Park. But he soon found the dry line, and with sectors 2 and 3 far less slippery than the first section, he was soon up to second, with just Sebastian Vettel's Red Bull ahead.
Sebastian Vettel has made a mistake, or has something gone wrong with the car? Either way, he's out. Jenson Button makes it another Australian Grand Prix victory.
Yeah! Oh, that feels so good!
There were many moments of Button brilliance in 2009, taking victory in 6 of the opening 7 races, including F1's blue ribboned event, the Monaco Grand Prix. In between sessions in Monte Carlo, there were film crews shooting scenes for a Marvel movie, but it was Button who proved to be the Iron Man, qualifying on pole for the race every driver wants to win.
Yeah! Boys, we worked hard for that one!
Jenson led from the off and gradually built up a sizable lead over teammate Rubens Barrichello, which was only pared back when the Britons slowed to avoid backmarkers in the closing laps.
Jenson Button coming through now for Brawn Grand Prix, and that is champions form in anybody's book.
Monaco, baby, yeah!
Button let the excitement get the better of him and parked his Brawn in the wrong spot, so Iron Man became Marathon Man as he jogged back to Parc Fermé, waving to the crowd along the way. There were many great moments in Button's 7 full seasons with McLaren, and his opening lap at the 2016 United States Grand Prix ranks up there with the best of them. Starting the race P19 after a disappointing qualifying session, Jenson got off to a flyer, making up an incredible 8 places in the first lap.
Some kind of first lap from Jenson though, wasn't it, from 19th on the grid?
2004 was a season of firsts for Button. Now driving for BAR Honda, he secured his maiden pole position at Imola and a first podium in Sepang, one of 10 he would take in a year where the Briton felt he could really challenge for honours. But it was at Hockenheim where he really proved his mettle. Despite qualifying with the 3rd fastest time, an engine issue with his usually reliable Honda forced a power unit change and a 10-place grid penalty. With race leader Michael Schumacher unchallenged at the front on his way to an 11th win in 12 races, the Briton eked his way up through the minor placings with some slick passing moves before pitting on lap 34 and emerging just behind second-placed Alonso. Harassing the Spaniard, Button almost slipped past him at the hairpin, the 2 men wheel to wheel as they approached the grandstand, but Alonso held his nerve and kept his place. Button wasn't done, and with another fresh set of rubber and a splash of fuel, he was back out and right on Fernando's tail. As he chased the Renault, Button's helmet strap was tugging against his throat, choking him on the high-speed straights. Despite the immense discomfort, he continued to harry the Spaniard until he forced his way past for second spot. P13 to P2 and second only to the great Michael Schumacher. This was truly one of the finest drives of Jenson's career. Button had joined McLaren when their 2010 Challenger, the MP425, had already been designed, which gave his incumbent teammate Lewis Hamilton the edge. In subsequent seasons, he was much more involved in car development, resulting in rides which were better attuned to his physique. It all came together in qualifying at the 2012 Belgian Grand Prix, when Jenson's performance was the epitome of driver, car, and circuit in perfect harmony. He took pole with a sensational lap, 0.8 faster than Lewis. Leading the race from the off, Button avoided the Turn 1 turmoil that took out Hamilton, Alonso, and Romain Grosjean, and his one-stop strategy saw him jubilantly take the second of his 3 wins that year, a season in which he and Hamilton finished just 2 points apart in the Drivers' Championship. Button's first Formula One victory was 6 years in the making. Qualifying in 4th for the 2006 Hungarian Grand Prix, a problem with his Honda engine saw him forced to switch power units and take a 10-place grid penalty. Rain is relatively rare at the Hungaroring. In fact, 2006 was the first wet race there since it joined the F1 calendar 20 years earlier. As others fell foul of the conditions, Button made up places with some super slick moves on the slippery surface, including this one on the Rainmeister himself. Making it up to second spot, the Briton had just race leader Fernando Alonso to overcome, and when the Renault driver suffered a technical failure which saw him slide into the tyre wall, Jenson took the lead and never let up.
They said he might never win a Grand Prix. He's done it! Jenson Button wins the Hungarian Grand Prix. Get in there!
Wow, what a day. You know, it's been amazing. Coming through from 14th and winning the race, I couldn't have done it in a better way, I don't think.
Brawn GP have the unique distinction of a 100% winning record in both Constructors' and Drivers' Championships. It was a case of right people, right car, right time in 2009, exemplified by their 1-2 finish at the season opener in Melbourne. Having endured a winter of trial and tribulation after Honda's withdrawal from F1 at the end of 2008, Button backed up Brawn's impressive pre-season testing form by putting his car on pole in Australia, and the Briton led every lap as he secured the first of his 6 Grand Prix wins that season, cementing a championship lead that, despite their competitors' efforts to emulate Brawn's technical advances, no team or driver was able to surpass. No list of Button moments of brilliance would be complete without his gutsy drive at Interlagos to win the 2009 World Championship. Leading Brawn GP teammate Rubens Barrichello by 14 points as they arrived in Sao Paulo, Button was hampered by a poor qualifying session that put him only P14 on the grid, with the Brazilian on pole at his home Grand Prix. What followed was an assured drive and a masterclass of the art of overtaking, as one by one he hunted down and manoeuvred past those in front. Cheered on by family, friends and colleagues, he worked his way through the field, eventually outscoring Barrichello, delivering the Constructors' Championship for the team and taking the driver's crown for himself.
We are the champions, my friends! We are world champions! World champions! Woo!
For a team that only formed in March of that year, to take both titles was an incredible achievement, an unbeatable first and final chapter for Brawn GP. Button's greatest Formula One performance came at the dramatic, rain-affected 2011 Canadian Grand Prix. The race began under the safety car, with everyone starting on full wet tyres. Spray was making visibility tricky, and on lap 8, Button and his McLaren teammate Lewis Hamilton collided as they battled for 6th place. Button pitted under the resultant safety car and opted for intermediate tyres, dropping him down to 12th spot. The race was suspended on lap 26 when a thunderstorm and torrential rain descended. After a 2-hour delay, there was another safety car restart, and Button was involved in a second collision, this time with Alonso, which took the Spaniard out of the race and saw a punctured Button pitting, emerging in last place. Undaunted and confident in his skills in the changing conditions, Jenson went on one of Formula One's greatest charges, cutting through the field and timing his switch to slicks perfectly to take advantage of the drying racing line. As Formula One's longest ever race entered its final minutes, he was sitting P4, but in the space of a few corners, passed both Mark Webber and Michael Schumacher and began closing the gap to race leader Sebastian Vettel. Bearing down on the Red Bull driver on the final lap, Button's pressure paid off as he forced the defending Vettel into a mistake and slipped through for an incredible and unlikely victory.
A fantastic race, and I think even if I hadn't won today I would have enjoyed this race immensely, but yeah, amazing win and possibly my best.